Welcome to the Economist in Your Ear podcast. Have you ever considered how a global crisis, like a major conflict, doesn't just reshape battlefields, but fundamentally reconfigures the powerful, often opaque world of international arms sales? Today, we're unpacking a fascinating shift in the global arms market, focusing on the surprising rise of South Korea and Turkey. We're building on insights from a recent Economist article and some additional research. We're going to try and go beyond the headlines, really critically examine the underlying dynamics and, well, the long-term implications for everyone involved. Okay, let's get into this. The Economist article paints a vivid picture. South Korea and Turkey stepping up as the world's hottest upstart weapons dealers. What's the core argument here? What makes them upstarts?
Well, what's truly fascinating, I think, is how both countries are capitalizing on a unique window, a unique, and I'd argue probably rather transient market opening. You see, Russia's global arms exports have plummeted. I mean, nearly 50% down from 2022 by last year, and their order books look pretty subdued.
Wow, 50%.
Yeah. It's primarily due to their ongoing war in Ukraine, obviously, and also the Western sanctions hitting critical components. It's just created this significant void, almost a vacuum, in the global market.
So a massive gap suddenly appeared where a major player used to dominate.
Exactly. And at the same time, European arms companies are playing catch-up. They really need time to restore their capacity, rebuild inventories. Inventories largely depleted by, generous donations of equipment to Ukraine.
They sent a lot of kit over there.
Precisely. So you have this dual pressure point. A major traditional supplier is, well, largely out of the game for now, and others are struggling to ramp up quickly enough. South Korea and Turkey are stepping right into this breach. They're offering NATO standard gear, often at, let's say, more competitive prices or with more flexible terms.
And the speed factor, too.
And crucially, yes, with faster delivery times. This whole value proposition, good gear, good price, fast delivery, it's hitting home for a lot of buyers right now.
Okay, beyond these sort of market conditions, the article highlights some truly massive deals. Can you give us some standout examples, things that really show off this speed and maybe financing savvy?
Absolutely. For South Korea, a prime example has to be their significant K2 tank contract with Poland.
Ah, yes, the Polish deal. Huge.
Huge. And it wasn't just a one-off. There's a second deal now for another 180 K2 tanks, and that's really cemented a lasting European foothold for them. Plus, there's future K2PL production planned locally inside Poland.
Local production, interesting.
This entire package, alongside K9 howitzers and FA-50 fighters, totals an astounding $22 billion.
$22 billion, that's staggering.
It really is. We also saw Romania ink a roughly $1 billion deal for K9 howitzers, with deliveries supposed to start in 2027. And looking at the higher-end systems, Saudi Arabia purchased the $3.2 billion Cheonggung II air defense system that's also known as the MSAM Block 2. That sale really validated Korea's capabilities in more complex setups.
Right, a big step up.
And Iraq even followed with an additional export of that system in 2024. Oh, and Peru also secured warships worth about $460 million, so quite a portfolio.
Those are truly impressive figures for South Korea. What about Turkey? How are they doing?
Turkey has seen a remarkable success, especially, as many know, with Baykar's drones. They have export deals in, 35 to 36 countries now for their TB2 and the more advanced Akıncı drones. That includes a $3 billion co-production deal with Saudi Arabia specifically for the Akıncı.
Co-production again. Seems like a trend.
It is. Symbolically, their TAI and 5th-gen fighter also notched its first export. Indonesia signed up for 24 aircraft, supposed deliveries starting February 2025, though, with these complex projects, timelines can only shift.
Of course. A 5th-gen fighter export is still a big statement, though.
A very big statement. And they've even crossed an interesting threshold with Portugal, an EU and NATO customer, choosing Turkey's STM to build 2 naval logistics ships. That's notable.
Definitely, within the NATO bloc.
And Romania, again, they've also signed for over 1,000 Cobratos 4x4 vehicles worth about $857 million, and that's through a local joint venture, too.
Turkey's drone success, particularly Baykar, feels like it's been everywhere. What do you see as the core elements of that strategy? How did they achieve such, dominance?
Turkey's strategy, particularly through Baykar, has been what you might call a drone as a wedge approach.
A drone as a wedge. I like that. Explain.
Well, they effectively resegmented the market. They competed hard on price, yes, but also on performance for that price point. And perhaps most importantly, offered incredibly permissive terms for their customers. Fewer strings attached, initially at least.
Right, making it easy to buy.
Exactly. It was almost like they found a crack in the market and just drove themselves right in, and this allowed them to capture a substantial market share. Since around 2018, Turkey has held approximately 65% of armed UAV transfers globally.
65%, that's huge.
It's massive, a real testament to their ability to carve out and dominate that specific niche.
So, okay, we see the success, the big numbers. But what does this all mean? The Economist's upstart label certainly grabs attention, but maybe it simplifies things a bit. Are these players really independent powerhouses, or is there a deeper, more nuanced story here?
That's a crucial question, absolutely, and this is where we need to apply a more critical lens. While their rise is undeniably significant, calling them entirely system-sovereign upstarts, well, that might be premature.
Okay.
The reality is both South Korea and Turkey still rely quite heavily on foreign subsystems and, importantly, foreign permissions for export and integration.
I understand. Can you elaborate on that reliance? What kind of components are we talking about, and why does it matter so much for this upstart idea?
Certainly. Take engines, for example. That new Turkish TA-Can 5th-gen fighter. It will depend on foreign propulsion for years to come.
Right, the engine's the heart.
Exactly. And Baker's huge success with drones like the TB2 has, for a long time, relied on Ukrainian engines. They're only now really investing heavily in developing indigenous turbofans and turboprops. Beyond engines, you have critical components like advanced sensors, encryption systems, secure data links. Think Link 16, the NATO standard. These often come from the U.S. or Europe.
Okay.
And the strict ITAR rules the U.S. international traffic and arms regulations. They still gate the integration of top-tier NATO-grade systems and, crucially, any subsequent re-exports of those systems by the buyer.
The re-export issue.
Yes. Remember, Canada's temporary export ban on Westcam electro-optical turrets? That critically affected Turkish UAV programs for a time. It's a stark reminder of how a single foreign supplier, or even just the rules around supply, can really impact, even cripple, a domestic defense program.
So it's not just about building the main platform, the plane, or the tank.
No, it's about all the intricate, often foreign-sourced parts inside and the permissions needed to use them together and sell them on. That really defines a system's true capability and, well, independence.
That's a crucial distinction. It links back to that window of opportunity idea too, doesn't it?
Precisely. And this ties into the idea that this market share they've grabbed is somewhat cyclical. This market opening, while significant now, is likely transient.
So this boom time might not last forever.
I wouldn't bet on it lasting indefinitely now. This current window they've so skillfully leveraged, it's probably not a new permanent fixture. Think of it more like a perfectly timed market anomaly. Europe, for instance, is rapidly increasing its artillery and missile production capacity. You see major U.S. and European primes, Rheinmetall, MBDA, BAE, Lockheed, they're aggressively scaling up their manufacturing.
They're not just sitting back.
Not at all. When they fully ramp up deliveries, the competitive landscape will certainly shift, probably back towards the incumbents to some extent.
And there's politics involved too, like Buy European.
Definitely. There's a strong push for Buy European initiatives and using industrial policy levers. Look at the European Sky Shield Initiative, ESII. It's this crucial project for integrating air defense across Europe.
Right, I've read about that.
It's designed to harmonize European air defense capabilities. And notably, it currently excludes Turkey. That shows that this kind of Europe-led defense integration still largely bypasses Ankara for various political and technical reasons.
Interesting. So alliances and politics still shape the market heavily.
Hugely. And we also can't just assume Russia's exports will stay down forever. Post-war, maybe with sanctions workarounds, they could recover somewhat and try to pull back customers with competitive pricing or tapping into those old legacy ties.
It sounds like the financial and political strings attached to these deals are also far more complex than just a simple sale. It's never just about the hardware, is it?
Never. Financing and politics indefinitely might, and they often dictate the terms. Consider Poland's second K2 tank deal again.
Yeah.
While it's massive financially, it includes deep localization requirements and significant tech transfer elements. Now, that's fantastic for Poland, right? It builds their domestic industrial base.
Yeah, good for them.
But from the Korean side, it potentially dilutes the long-term utilization of their own factories back home and introduces political risk down the line. We've even seen some recent probes into intermediaries related to these deals, adding another layer of complexity.
Okay. And for Turkey, you mentioned their no strings brand. Is that changing?
It seems to be evolving, yes. NATO alignment clearly matters, as we saw with the recent, quite protracted F-16 package approval from the U.S. And EU human rights politics, rightly or wrongly, continue to influence some European procurement decisions regarding Turkey. The ESSI emission we just talked about, and the whole years-long F-35 fallout. These really illustrate the structural limits Turkey faces for full integration into certain Western defense programs.
So it really brings us back to the idea that it's not just about the initial sale, it's the whole life cycle, the support, the relationship.
Absolutely. Sustainment over sales. That's a critical point, maybe the critical point long term. Rapid initial deliveries are impressive, but they're only half the battle. The long-term value for customers and the long-term profit for the seller depends heavily on spares, software updates, training, and crucially robust mission system integration, making everything work together smoothly.
And that's where the established players have an advantage.
Typically, yes. Incumbents with vast maintenance, repair, and overhaul MRO networks usually have a huge advantage here. Unless Korea and Turkey can establish really deep, effective in-country support hubs, like that K2PL factory model in Poland, or the joint venture for Romanian Cobra 2 vehicles, they'll face an uphill battle securing that long-term, profitable sustainment value.
And what about that drone edge Turkey has wielded so effectively? You mentioned Baykar. Is that dominance secure given how fast drone warfare is changing?
That edge may well erode, and arguably it's already happening. The TB2 class UAVs, they thrived against older, less sophisticated short-range air defense systems, SA-SHARAD, and basic electronic warfare, EW.
Okay, against less advanced defenses.
Exactly. Less advanced systems for stopping drones or jamming their communications. But in environments like Ukraine today, which are just saturated with advanced counter-UAS systems and very sophisticated electronic warfare, we're seeing a fundamental shift.
What kind of shift?
The battlefield is now demanding cheaper, more attritable drones, basically. Drones designed to be potentially lost, expendable after a single mission. It's also demanding lots of loitering munitions, suicide drones, and looking upmarket, stealthier or faster unmanned combat aerial vehicles, UCAVs, like Turkey's own Kızılelma project.
And so Baykar needs to adapt too.
Definitely. Baykar's push-up market, like their MOU with Leonardo, the Italian defense giant, and their significant investment in developing their own engines, that's becoming a necessity, not just an option, if they want to maintain their competitive edge in this evolving landscape.
And it's also worth remembering sometimes the headline figures, the huge dollar amounts, don't always reflect signed, sealed contracts, right?
Yep.
There can be a gap.
Precisely. We absolutely need to distinguish between the hype, the announcements, and the hard contracts. Take South Korea's KSS Thur submarine pitch to Canada for their future submarine program.
Right, I saw headlines about that. A huge potential value.
Estimated at $17 billion? Yes, it's a serious contender. But Ottawa hasn't actually down-selected a winner yet, let alone signed anything. Those big dollar figures you see in headlines are often best thought of as option value, not firm backlog.
Got it. Potential, not guaranteed.
Exactly. It's important to treat those as future possibilities, things that could happen, not confirmed sales, because the political winds or financial realities can always shift before the ink is dry.
Okay, so bringing this all together, it really does sound like this story is far more complex than just a simple rise of the upstarts. After digging into all these layers, what's the real bottom line here?
Well, if we connect all these threads, the bottom line, I think, is that the narrative is less about new global merchants of death, as some might frame it, and more accurately described as fast followers cleverly exploiting a supply shock gap.
Fast followers. Okay.
Korea and Turkey certainly deserve immense credit. Their speed, their focus on modularity in some systems, their often clever export finance strategies, these are genuinely impressive. However, their remarkable rise fundamentally rests still on significant foreign technology inputs, potential export control choke points we discussed, and what appears to be a transient capacity gap in the West.
So they seized the moment effectively.
Very effectively. But the foundations, while they're not yet entirely self-sufficient in the way traditional established arms powers like the US or major European players are, not yet.
So looking ahead then, what should we expect? As this global arms market continues to evolve, where do these upstarts or fast followers fit in the future picture?
We should definitely expect tougher competition ahead. As US and EU defense production capacity recovers and potentially expands, the market space will get more crowded again.
Right, the incumbents fight back.
Exactly. We'll also likely see more conditioning by NATO and EU industrial policy as these blocs naturally seek to prioritize their own internal supply chains and defense industrial bases. And crucially, I think we'll see a really significant pivot, or at least the need for one, from focusing on high volume sales towards the slower, harder, but ultimately more lucrative business of long-term sustainment and systems integration.
That sustainment piece again.
That's where the real enduring value is created, and frankly, where their long-term independence and credibility will truly be tested.
Okay, so for you, the listener, maybe you're a policymaker, perhaps an industry watcher, or just someone keenly interested in these global dynamics. What are the key takeaways? Or maybe what strategic moves should these countries, and perhaps more importantly, their customers, be considering?
That's a great question. For buyers, the advice has to be de-risk your procurements. That means thoroughly mapping out any ITAR or other third country dependencies in any new system you're considering. Don't just assume it's all domestically sourced.
Know what you're buying, truly.
Precisely. Write enforceable sustainment KPIs, key performance indicators directly into the contracts. Don't let sustainment be an afterthought. Insist on localization, yes, but only where it genuinely adds life cycle resilience and value, not just for, ribbon-cutting photo opportunities.
Good point.
And critically, especially with drones, wargame the emerging counter-UAS and electronic warfare trends before committing to large fleets of a particular type. The threat environment is changing fast.
And for South Korea and Turkey themselves?
For Korea and Turkey, the truly durable strategy, I believe, lies in two areas. Achieving genuine subsystem sovereignty, especially in critical areas like engines, sensors, data links, and forging deep, genuinely strategic European partnerships. Initiatives like that Leonardo Bakar Memorandum of Understanding or the K2PL factory model in Poland, these perhaps show the way toward a more resilient, integrated future for them. Less upstart, more partner.
This really raises a fascinating final question, doesn't it? In this era of intense global competition, how might these fast followers navigate that very delicate balance between pursuing rapid growth and achieving true, sustainable strategic independence?
That is precisely the core challenge they face. It means prioritizing deep, sometimes less glamorous long-term investments in indigenous R&D to shed those critical foreign dependencies we talked about. And at the same time, they need to cultivate enduring, truly reciprocal strategic alliances, particularly within established blocs like NATO, where they already have ties. It's a real high-wire act, balancing national ambition with the hard realities of global supply chains, international politics, and defense integration.
A complex future ahead for them and for the whole market. Thanks for listening. Follow us to stay updated with the latest insights on The Economist every day, and don't forget to like, comment, and share.